In this video, we're going to discuss limiting a WLAN to use a particular radio band, as well as the importance of using the correct country code in devices associated with a venue location. Let's get started. First, we're going to look at limiting an SSID to a particular radio band. You may want to restrict the 2.4 GHz radio, as 5 GHz is faster, has more non-overlapping channels, and is widely supported by many client devices. Or maybe your AP supports 6 GHz, but you don't have any clients that use that radio band. Whichever the case may be, you can use Ruckus 1 to restrict specific radio bands at the WLAN, venue, or AP level. Let's see how this is done. First, at the WLAN level, you can see all your WLANs by going to Wi-Fi on the left and selecting Wi-Fi Networks list. Here we have 3 WLANs. Let's select Test WLAN. From the tabs, you can navigate to the Venues tab to see all the venues on this instance. You can also see which venues are activated on this WLAN. Here we can see the home network and play venues are the only venues that this SSID is going to be propagated out of. We can also see WLAN information, that it's set up for all APs, and most important, the radio options for 2.4 and 5 GHz on both venues. That tells us that the test WLAN within these venues are using both bands. So, if we select this blue hyperlink, we will be able to modify this. We have a drop-down here, and we can select either 2.4, 5, or 6 GHz, if available, or any combination. We can go ahead and uncheck 2.4 GHz here and click Apply. So, it's going to update the configuration. Now, this SSID is only going to be available on the 5 GHz band. We can also change this at the time of creating a new WLAN. So, if we go back over to the Wi-Fi Networks list and choose Add Wi-Fi Network, let's just run through an example real quick. On this option, we can activate it on specific venues and specify which radios to use. The same option to change radios for WLANs can also be accessed from the Venues menu. From the Venue tab, select a venue. Then go over to the Networks tab to see the WLANs activated on this venue. And like the previous page, you can select the hyperlink under Radios and choose the radio bands that specific WLAN will use in the chosen venue. Be advised that you aren't disabling or enabling radios at the venue level. However, if we go to the venue configuration and select the Wi-Fi configuration tab, we have many options to edit our radio bands. For example, you can choose the bandwidth, transmission power, or which channels are available for use per band. You can choose to split 5 GHz channels up between upper and lower bands for certain APs that have tri-band radios as well. You might choose that option to split the 5 GHz channels if you didn't yet have 6 GHz capable clients and wanted to make full use of the third radio on those devices. These settings would apply to all WLANs under that venue. A WLAN can belong to more than one venue, so if you want to update the WLAN across the entire deployment, you would need to update each venue. But again, the options to disable bands entirely is done at the WLAN or AP level. Also, the band and channel settings defined at the venue can be overridden per AP. Finally, let's look at this at an AP level. On the left, go to Wi-Fi, then go to AP List. This shows you all the APs in your instance. Choose an AP to see its details. Then select Configure on the top right, then go to Radio. Under Wi-Fi Radio Settings, you will see tabs for each radio band. You will also see the message Currently 2.4 GHz settings as the venue, followed by a venue name. This means that this AP is inheriting the radio settings from that specific venue. You can override this by selecting Customize. When you do this, the Enable 2.4 GHz band will change to a toggle, allowing you to disable this band. You can also enable or disable the radio bands for 5 GHz and 6 GHz. Disabling the band at the AP level will stop that AP from using the disabled band. Administrators could utilize this to disable 2.4 GHz on some devices throughout the environment, where 2.4 GHz channels overlap greatly, and there is a need to reduce or eliminate co-channel interference. You will also be able to change the channel bandwidth, power levels, as well as set specific channels on APs when choosing to override venue settings. This allows administrators to get granular with their configurations and deployments. So not only do administrators need to understand the venue settings that APs inherit, but also need to look for overrides within their networks. Next, let's look at how the venue region can affect the devices we use in a particular venue. Earlier in this video, you may have noticed some red on the dashboard. Typically, red on the dashboard means this requires immediate attention. So let's see what we can determine from the dashboard. We can see that 1 out of 3 venues requires our attention, and so does 1 AP. If we scroll down, we can see from the map that 2 of our venues are listed in the United States, Play, and Home Network. The other one is called Nijo Castle, and it is located in Japan. If we dig further into the venue, we can see that the AP for this venue is also listed in red. When we created the venue, we specified an address, which allows us to determine the city and country, and applies that to the venue. Let's go over to devices, and we see the only device in this venue is an R650, and its current status is configuration update failed, but it could also be something like never contacted cloud. The location of the venue should be a hint to what the possible issue is. Since the venue is set to Japan, our R650 may have its country code set to another location, say the US. This AP will not be compatible with this venue. When you are building a network, you need to ensure that the devices that you are purchasing are appropriate for the region. And if they're not, Ruckus One will not be able to push configuration updates to these devices, and it will flag them and raise an alarm. Once the issue has been corrected, your dashboard should no longer raise any red alarms. In this case, we went ahead and put the AP into a US-based venue, which allowed it to properly update the configuration, and everything's working fine. However, changing the venue may not always be an option, and since the country code set in the AP cannot be changed for some models, care should be taken when purchasing APs to ensure you have the right AP for the right region. Hopefully, this video was helpful in showing how to restrict a WLAN to a specific radio band, or when trying to figure out why a specific radio band isn't appearing for a SSID, or issues with a venue's location, which can be resolved based on the earlier steps.